This is From Now On. I'm Lisa Phillips. So in part one, you got to meet Sonya Passi, whose work with FreeFrom is the subject of Survivor Made, a groundbreaking documentary that focuses on the journey of life after abuse. We talked about how important it is for all of us to be part of the solution, to educate ourselves, support survivors, and challenge the systems that perpetuate abuse. But now I want to shift gears and talk about something that's close to my heart, why I created this podcast in the first place. I launched From Now On because I know the power of stories. Stories connect us. They heal us. They remind us that we're not alone. And for survivors of abuse, that reminder can be life-changing. Too often, the narrative ends when someone leaves an abusive situation, as though the story is over. But for me, the most important part of the story is what comes next: rebuilding, rediscovering, reclaiming your life. We need more stories that show what life after abuse can look like. Stories of healing, of joy, of financial freedom, of love. And that's why I'm here. That's why this podcast exists. So in part one, you got to meet Sonya Passi, who is the subject of Survivor Made, a groundbreaking documentary that focuses on the journey of life after abuse. What I love about Survivor Made is how it shifts the spotlight. Instead of centering on the pain and trauma, though it doesn't shy away from the truth, it celebrates the resilience and strength and courage of survivors as they heal in community and achieve financial security. Sonya's work is deeply inspiring because it challenges the narrative that survivors are broken or defined by what happened to them. Instead, it shows that survivors are creators, leaders, innovators, people who've transformed their pain into a higher purpose. And the documentary doesn't just highlight individual stories. It paints a picture of what's possible when we come together as a community. And it shows that healing isn't something we do in isolation. It's something that we do hand in hand with others who believe in us. One of the most impactful themes in Survivor Made is the connection between financial security and healing. I said this earlier, but it bears repeating. Financial independence is a cornerstone of freedom for survivors. When someone can take control of their finances, when they can support themselves and their families, it's not just about money. It's about dignity. It's about agency. It's about reclaiming a life that was stolen. Survivor Made also shows the incredible power of community in this process. Survivors thrive when they're surrounded by people who understand, who uplift, and who cheer them on. And healing is never linear. It's messy. It's hard. And sometimes it feels impossible. When you're part of our community, you're reminded that you don't have to do it alone. The reason why Sonya's work resonates so deeply with me is because it aligns with my mission on From Now On. We're here to educate, to empower, and to heal. We're here to show that abuse isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where survivors not only survive, but thrive. And if you're a survivor listening to this right now, I want you to hear me when I say this. There's a future waiting for you, a future where you're safe, where you're seen, where you're free. And you don't have to do it alone. And there are people like Sonya and like me and like so many others who want to walk alongside you on your journey. As we wrap up this special holiday episode, I want to leave you with a thought. Every survivor has the power to write a new story. It won't always be easy, but believe me when I tell you, it will always be worth it. And for those of you listening who may not be survivors, but you want to help, remember this: your belief in someone's story can be a spark. Your kindness, your support, your willingness to show up, these are gifts that can change lives. I hope this conversation leaves you feeling hopeful, inspired, and ready to take even the smallest step towards supporting survivors in your own community. Because together we're stronger, and together we heal. Thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for part 2 of my conversation with Sonya Passi about Survivor Made a testament to the power of resilience, healing, and hope. Today's guest is Sonya Passi. She's the founder and CEO of FreeFrom, a national organization transforming our society's response to gender-based violence so that survivors and their families can thrive. To date, FreeFrom has served over 30,000 survivors and successfully changed policy to support the financial security of over 5.3 million survivors in the U.S. Sonya has been an anti-violence activist since she was 16 years old. For her work in this field, Sonya was awarded the 2024 Elevate Prize and listed in Forbes 30 Under 30 class of 2017 for law and policy. She has presented on her work to the UN, White House, members of Congress, and federal agencies, several major corporations, and various city and state agencies and commissions. Most recently, she was featured in the powerful documentary Survivor Made, which follows 6 survivors of gender-based violence as they strive to grow their businesses during a make-or-break holiday season in Los Angeles. I am grateful today to welcome Sonya to From Now On. So I'm curious, what do you think the biggest distraction is that we face that prevents us from creating a society that supports survivors?
The biggest distraction is we don't think it's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And until that changes, we won't.
Mm-hmm. And that's also because people don't really know the realities of it until they're educated with podcasts or just the media portrays it in the right way.
Right.
Then people don't have the right understanding of it, because when you watch TV and film, it's portrayed and
it's personal.
Yeah, in a way that's not really what's happening. You got involved
with the wrong person.
Mm-hmm. It's all your fault.
You're unlucky in love, or you make bad choices.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But no, this is a pattern of behavior that is ingrained in our society, that is upheld by our society, that is celebrated by our society. I mean, our society applauds harm doers on a daily basis.
Well, especially in the entertainment business, and arts and sports.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, you know what you're getting yourself into, and it's to be expected.
Yeah.
A lot of men think that. Actually, women say it too.
Totally. It is so normalized in our society until we unnormalize it, until we understand that this isn't a personal issue, this is a public issue.
And it's not okay.
And it's not okay. And it's avoidable. It's avoidable if we all play our part. If we can level set there, the opportunity for transforming our society and building a safe society is huge.
Yeah, I could see real transformation happening with just a small shift.
Yeah. But we as a society have to break up with the abuser archetype. We're still madly
idolizing
in love with
the abuser.
that archetype. And until we break up and disavow it and see it for what it is, we're stuck in this loop.
That's funny, because when I was going Halloween shopping for costumes for my kids, I was like counting all the abuser outfits that were out there.
Like what?
What's the serial killers and things like that? Like,
yeah. And who are these serial killers killing? They're all killing women.
I know. It's like, why are there 1,200 Jeffrey Dahmers running around the U.S.?
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
But that's what I'm saying. They idolize.
Yeah.
This type of abuse.
Totally.
Even extreme violence.
Yeah.
So FreeFrom was recently featured in a documentary called Survivor Made.
Yeah.
This documentary is how I learned about you and FreeFrom. It's a beautiful documentary.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed watching it, and I learned so much. Tell me about the genesis of this documentary.
Yeah. We were just talking about how we need to take responsibility for this issue. That is central to everything that FreeFrom does. Everyone in our society needs to play their part. But how do you get everyone to play their part to solve an issue that no one wants to look at? And when all of our media and visual representations of the issue are gratuitous violence, hopelessness, tragedy, why would anyone want to look at it? And so the genesis of Survivor Made was I wanted to tell stories about survivors that showed what could be, that showed life after harm, that showed survivors healing, their resilience, their community, their joy, their power. Because you have to see it to believe that it's possible. And so my hope, this is a 90-minute documentary very explicitly about gender-based violence, but you never see trauma and you never see suffering. And my hope is that people will see it, and the next time that they think about this issue, they won't have that knee-jerk reaction to turn away. But they'll remember the joy they felt watching this documentary, how inspired they felt watching this documentary, and they'll feel energy. Because if we don't feel energy towards something, we're not going to move towards it, and we're not going to do anything about it. And so our storytelling has to facilitate the building of the world that we want to see.
I was always thinking when I was watching, I kept thinking, oh, this is about the human potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the survivors have so much potential.
Yeah. I think about that a lot when people ask me what my life's work is. Yes, my life's work is ending gender-based violence, but really what drives me on a day-to-day basis is a fundamental belief that everybody should have the freedom to live out their potential.
Absolutely.
And gender-based violence and abuse robs people.
Robs you of your potential.
Robs
I know,
people.
coming from an abusive relationship, it robbed me of my potential.
Yeah. And then sometimes it doesn't just rob you, it robs your children and their children and their children. And what could we be as a world if everyone got to live out their full potential?
I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That you do have the potential to create the life that you want.
Yeah.
I mean, FreeFrom basically sets it up for them.
Yeah.
To say, oh, you want to be an entrepreneur? Like, you can do that.
Yeah.
And what were you dreaming about when you were a child? Or what did you always have in your mind of having a business? Because most people do.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
So they're not like thinking, oh, what can I do right now? They already have it in their mind.
Creating. Yeah.
You know, what business they want to have.
Yeah.
You know, and with that support, it's possible.
Yeah.
So in the documentary, a main storyline features Gifted by FreeFrom, the social enterprise that works to give survivors financial independence. You've been quoted saying that survivors make incredible entrepreneurs. I agree with this. But I want to unpack that statement.
Yeah.
Why are survivors great entrepreneurs?
Yeah. To be a great entrepreneur, you need it. You need to make something out of nothing. You need to be ready to give it everything it takes. You need to be strategic. You need to be creative. And the very act of surviving requires those same skills.
So true.
And whether you had them to begin with, which you probably did, or you cultivated them through figuring out how to survive, you have in droves the exact skills it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur. I think we've lost a little bit of the reality of what entrepreneurship is in this country. We've sort of moved into this facade of you need millions of dollars in venture capital and you need an MBA. You don't. You need an idea, a tremendous amount of hard work, and a tremendous amount of resilience.
And some grit.
Yeah.
And some self-belief. Like, you really need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And that comes from the community.
That's exactly.
Right. Because a lot of times going through an abusive situation, you lose that.
And I think if FreeFrom offers anything, we don't invest money in survivors' businesses. And we certainly don't tell people how to run their businesses. If we're able to do anything, it's reflect back the self-belief that then supports them in doing everything with the resources they already have. Because that's the part that's stripped from us as survivors. Our resilience isn't stripped. And our ability to work hard isn't stripped. Our creativity isn't stripped. But our belief that we are worth anything is stripped. So that's something that we can provide But then you watch people, I mean, the cast of this documentary, even just in the making and release of this documentary, we just got back from a week-long tour around the country with the documentary in different cities. And a lot of the cast came for, different screenings. Everyone's like standing 10 times taller.
They feel
Their
good.
pride,
The self-worth comes
their
back.
reclaiming of that narrative, of that story of who they are. We've had people come up to them and ask them to sign their movie posters. And, they're feeling like $1 million, and they're so incredibly talented. And, when we say, what can community do? We can all reflect back to someone their worth. That's a really easy thing we can all do.
Right.
Just as quickly as someone can try to take it away from us, we can reflect it back to someone.
What was the process like talking to the gifted entrepreneurs to see whether they feel comfortable telling the stories on Survivor Made? Maybe there's some fear of an abuser seeing them and wanting to retaliate or suppress them, or
we went about this in a really survivor informed way. So first of all, the entire crew were survivors. Our producers, our director, our cinematographer, our composer, and our director, Drew Denny, really set the tone here, speaking to cast members, potential cast members, letting them know what this process was going to entail.
Okay.
Giving everyone, I had the idea for the documentary, but I'm also a cast member. And so I've seen it from both sides. But as a cast member, Drew sat me down and said, we will not include anything in this documentary that you do not want us to. And your ability to consent or take away consent continues right up until this film is locked. So even if right now you're comfortable saying something, but that changes 6 months from now, we will take it out. And so everyone went, and that was really honored. And so everyone went into this process with transparency, understanding that they were amongst survivors, and there was that shared respect and witnessing, and also understanding that they had control. And that's what we so often don't have as survivors. Our stories are extracted from us. Our stories are used in ways we never wanted them to.
Right.
Or it's like we said something once and then that lives in the world, whether we want it to or not, even if our circumstances change. And so I think it was a mix of that combined with we don't show survivors' trauma or suffering. We're showing at its core, this is a movie about, like you said, human potential. It's humans in community with other humans. So the storytelling in itself isn't exposing. And so, when the team sat down to watch it, when the cast sat down to watch it, they were like, we learned so much about each other. Our kids are so extraordinary in it. We felt so much joy watching it. We cried so much. It was all positive feelings. It was all validating. And as movie makers or storytellers, we have so much power about how we honor someone's life experience. And so if, this movie is successful in one way, I want it to be that.
I love that. What was the most surprising or enlightening part of the process of producing this film for you?
I think that the most surprising part of making this movie was realizing how wrong I was in thinking that my work was done when the movie was released. I'm really
post-production?
I'm really, well, not even like just we launched the movie out into the world and it feels like our work with this film has just begun. You know, it was the end of one process. It's the beginning of another. And it's amazing. You want a film to have a long life. You want it to be received so well that it continues to be watched. It continues to be something that people are talking about and learning from. And so I feel like I'm just now at the beginning of this journey of really seeing what is the full potential of this film.
Right. It's the fun part.
The fun part. The really fun part.
I want to hear your opinion on why the media has such a strong hold on protecting abusers and shaming survivors.
No doubt who holds power in these media companies has a big part to play in that. But I also think our general misconceptions about the issue play a huge role. One of the things that I want this film to show people is, as survivors, we don't want to see any more violence against us. That is not content that we want to consume. So if that is all the content you are making, who are you making it for? And if you think you're making it for us, how can we very, very explicitly tell you, and you hear us when we say, that is not content we want? And the long-term impact that I hope this film has is that people rally behind it in droves. It's so successful in demonstrating to Hollywood, to the media, to those in power over what stories get told, that this is the type of storytelling about survivors that we want. Because pretty much every show that I can think of on TV right now that is a drama is about gender-based violence. We are obsessed with telling stories of gender-based violence, but we have not been able to think about anything more creative than showing the violence and showing the tragedy and ending there.
Over and over and over again.
Over and over again. I heard that there was research done that found that the most popular show that people fall asleep to is Law and Order SVU.
Okay. They fall asleep to.
They fall asleep to it. We are so numb to visual representations of gender-based violence that we can actually fall asleep to it. And that tells you where we're at as a society and how we need to change.
Right. And you're right that survivors don't want to see it.
We don't want to see it.
Because when I see it on film, TV now, it's like I just turn it off.
Yeah. I basically just watch the Great British Baking Show because everything else is so violent and egregious that I don't want to see it. My
kids, the shows now for teens are really violent.
Yeah.
Sexually explicit.
Yes.
Like, it's so shocking to me.
Yes.
And these are like shows that all the kids are watching now.
And it's normalizing it for them
really
at
scary.
such a young age.
Healing for survivors isn't linear. And Survivor Made was such a beautiful representation of what all survivors navigate while working for financial security.
Yeah.
But the biggest impact Survivor Made showed for me is that it should be done in community. Community is a powerful source of healing.
Yeah.
How does Gifted and FreeFrom cultivate community in the work culture?
Although Gifted is a part of FreeFrom, it's really its own entity. And the culture of both FreeFrom and Gifted is created by the people that work there. So the Gifted team, there's somebody on the Gifted team right now whose daughter came home with a black eye. And the Gifted team rallied around her and said, we're a family. So your daughter is our daughter. And we will look out for you. And so they're already, they've implemented a whole strategy to support her and her daughter and help them move through this moment and have it only be a moment and not a cycle and a pattern that gets repeated.
Wow, that's so important.
And that is really when you're able to bring your full self to work, when you're able to own your survivorship in the workplace and know that that is a part of you that is not just tolerated, but celebrated, you can you can access all the wisdom and all the resources that has taught you. And so this is a community of survivors. They are very clear that they are there as survivors. They are there in the midst of their own healing process, and they are there for each other. And so that just builds the most beautiful community. And for FreeFrom, you know, as we're doing this work, not just within the FreeFrom team, but with survivors nationally, it's that beautiful dance of how do you do big vision systems change work in a way that is so relational, is so community focused. And so these basic principles guide us. Survivors know best what we need. We trust survivors. We as a community of survivors have all of the wisdom and resources and solutions we need. And so even on a big scale, it's about community. Like we're very clear that the solution here is community at a home level all the way up to a societal level.
Yeah. I always thought that community, it creates happiness.
Yeah.
You know, because when you feel like you're really supported.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's what most women are lacking, is that support from family. So I can imagine going to work is like a really happy place.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the cast members in the documentary, she says, my daughter always says, like, I want to can I quit school and have a job like you, Mom? And her daughter's 12.
Right. It sees mom happy.
She sees mom happy.
Yeah. That's what kids are always looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for someone who's currently navigating their exit strategy or the beginnings of their life after gender-based violence?
I think the first thing I would say is trust your gut. And you know best how to keep yourself safe. So if you feel like this isn't the right time or I'm not ready, trust your gut. I was once working, when I was starting the entrepreneurship program, I was at a shelter in LA, and I was introducing the entrepreneurship program, to a group of women at the shelter. And there was a woman there, and she said, you know, I am convinced that my harm doer is having me followed. And I feel it every time I'm out. I feel like someone's following me. And I told my therapist, and she gave me some drugs to like calm my anxiety. And every single one of us in the room looked at her and said, do not take those drugs.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
What you are hearing is your gut instinct.
Yeah.
Do not numb your gut instinct.
Say, do not numb it.
And I came back the next week, she wasn't there anymore. And I think about that moment all the time. And I think about...
You don't know what happened to her?
She was right. She was being followed, and her harm doer got her back under their control. I think about that moment a lot. I think about how, especially as women, we are taught to ignore our gut instincts. We are taught to mistrust our gut. So my first advice to anyone who is thinking about their own safety is trust your gut. If your gut says go, go. If your gut says stay right now, stay. And then my next piece of advice would just be to try one practice every day that shows yourself how much you love yourself. Even if you gotta fake it till you make it. But if you've experienced abuse, someone has tried to rob you of your birthright to love yourself, your birthright to know how magnificent you are as a human being. And at times in my life where I have felt like I don't have what I need, I have essentially had to convince myself that I have it by telling myself what I would tell my daughter.
Right.
Or telling myself what I would tell my friend.
Or your younger self.
Or my younger
yeah.
self. And so as much kindness as you can show yourself, I hope and pray that other people in your life show it to you too.
But a lot of people don't have that.
But a lot of us don't have it in those moments. So just remember that you have so much power and so much goodness and so much potential. And even if you don't know it, even if you can't fully internalize it right now, trust me when I say to you that anything that you believe that says otherwise is a lie that was told to you.
Yeah. It's difficult when you're in an abusive relationship because they're always trying to kill the spirit.
Yeah, that's how they get control. That's how they kill your spirit to feed theirs. It doesn't feed theirs, but that's the vampiric loop that they end up in.
So that self-talk is really important.
Yeah.
Keep it positive about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really does work.
Yeah. It does.
And
it's like the rewiring of our own brains.
Right.
It's the step by step.
And having those moments to yourself, or taking a hike or a walk, and just focusing on yourself a little bit more. Do you have plans to produce more transformative stories on survivors?
I do. I have a couple of ideas in the works. I'm feeling the pressure of how much I loved Survivor Made and wanting the next storytelling to be as rich. But my ultimate goal is I want to create a production company that is focused on stories told by survivors for survivors.
That would be great.
And I really want it to be a company that both owns the creation of storytelling, but also the distribution, so that we are not reliant on the powers that be in Hollywood to decide that these stories should be told and to give a platform to these stories, but to actually build the platform ourselves. And Survivor Made is available online. You can watch it for free if you need it for free. And we are through the self-distribution of this documentary starting to build the audience that we will continue to build with the next film and the next film and the next film, so that we have our own audience.
Right.
We can do our own distribution directly to survivors. Because the way to disrupt and change anything is not to wait for permission to do it. And so that is my biggest dream for what Survivor Made has seeded.
Yeah, especially things that are new.
Yeah.
In entertainment, you have to kind of just like forge the way yourself.
Yeah. I talked to someone at a big streamer in Hollywood, and they were like, this is a really niche topic. And I just don't think it's a good use of my resources to try to convince you that this is not a niche topic. I would rather just go and, figure out how to do it ourselves.
Right, exactly. So where should people go to watch Survivor Made?
So you can go to survivormadedoc.com, and the film is available to stream online. You can also, there's a couple options. You can watch the film for $12 or for free, whichever you need. And there's also the option for people to pay it forward. So basically to buy a ticket for someone who can't afford to pay for it.
Nice.
Which again is sort of the community supporting the community. So there's lots of ways to support the film and support survivors being able to watch the film.
So survivormadedoc.com.
Yeah. Another thing that you can do is host a community screening. Watch the film with coworkers, at your school, in community. It's really easy to, through our online platform, host a community screening. You can even, we've made it possible so that if you want to host a screening as a fundraiser for your own organization, you can, or you want to rent out a local movie theater and watch it in your community, you can.
Fantastic.
So this is really intended to be something that you can bring to your communities.
Mm-hmm. I love that. This has been so uplifting.
Thank you.
Such a great conversation. I've learned so much. So I know survivors are watching and listening today. How can people support FreeFrom and your efforts to create an ecosystem where survivors thrive?
So many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, watch Survivor Made
Mm-hmm.
and tell one person you know about the film.
Mm-hmm.
Post about it on social media, like really help us spread the word about this film. The second is, we're going into the holiday season. If you shop at giftedbyfreefrom.org, do your holiday shopping with the Gifted team and shop our beautiful curated gift boxes. You can get them gift wrapped. You can add a handmade, handwritten card. It's a beautiful, beautiful gift. And the third is donate to FreeFrom.
Mm-hmm.
We have a campaign running through the end of the year.
Okay.
If we are able to raise $300,000, we will have it matched, which means we will get $600,000. That money all goes to cash grants or savings matching grants for survivors.
Oh, fantastic.
So your money is going to survivors, dollar for dollar. So those are the most immediate and kind of clear ways to support FreeFrom. Check out the map and scorecards, see how your state is doing, see if you want to get involved like that. And besides that, I said earlier, everyone has a part to play. We have a lot of resources on our site for how you might get involved, depending on the access and resources and knowledge that you have. But we're building a movement. So you might think of something based on listening to this episode that you can do that's not for FreeFrom, but is ultimately serving the vision and the collective goal that we all have.
Yeah, step by step.
Yeah,
Yeah,
step by step.
little by little, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We like to end each episode with this question. When you hear the powerful statement, "From now on," how would you end that sentence?
From now on, I will not question my potential.
I love that. Yeah, it's the
great
human
question.
potential
Yeah.
that all of us survivors have.
Yeah. It's
I love this idea that you created. Was it as big when you first thought of it as it's getting? And
the end goal was big. The what we do now versus what I imagined. Yeah. The in-between has grown astronomically.
Yeah.
I mean, I never would have thought that I would be building a credit union, that we would have created a documentary. Like the how continues to grow with such exciting pace. But the end goal was always to transform the way that we're addressing this problem.
Yeah. Transform the way people are addressing this problem.
Yeah.
And also the way that people think about survivors.
Exactly.
It's really, really important.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're doing very important work.
Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful for everything you're doing and all the survivors out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me today.
This was a joy. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. This is From Now On. Thanks for joining me today. I am Lisa Phillips. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and remember, there is strength in speaking out. And special thanks to our amazing guest, Sonya Passi. Elizabeth Wyndham is our senior producer. Christopher Leon is the editor. Corey Wynn is our director of photography. And Jose Oriana is our studio producer. Our theme music is Many Worlds by Memory Theory. If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories about your own views on topics discussed on From Now On, email us at fromnowonpod@gmail.com. And please follow, rate, comment, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If today's conversation resonated with you and you are seeking more support in your own healing journey, if you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, help is available. Call 800-656-HOPE If you or someone you know is being trafficked, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Text 233-733. That's Be Free. PAVE is a 501c3 nonprofit creating a world free from sexual violence and building communities to support survivors. To learn more, go to shatteringthesilence.org. Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, SOAR, is dedicated to providing a safe and empowering space for survivors of sex trafficking to reclaim their stories and stand up for themselves and each other. That's www.speakoutactreclaim.org.